Okay, hello, assalamualaikum. Welcome to Magsinūg Kita, Let's Speak Sinūg, a series of online lessons by yours truly, Dr. Ahmad, also known as Tausug 101, Learn Sinūg in Anything Tausug. Welcome to part 2 of our fourth lesson, lesson 4, KANSIYU INI, what is this? And now we will discuss the topic, oblique pronouns in the Sinūg language. I still can't. So again, KANSIYU INI, lesson 4, part 2. So in this lesson, in the previous lesson, we already discussed the genitive pronouns, KANSIYU INI, and we also discussed the possessive relators kan and ha. So in this lesson, we will discuss the second part, which is the oblique pronouns KANSIYU INI and the remaining possessive relators sin and he. Okay. So KANSIYU INI again, who is this? This is used when asking about ownership or possession of an object or person. So in this question, KANSIYU in basu ini, we have already discussed the three possible ways of answering it. We have here in basu yan kan Ahmad, in basu yan hamastal, and in basu yan kanya. In the first example, we use a possessive relator kan and a proper name Ahmad. In the second example, we use the possessive relator ha and followed by a common name, and lastly a genitive pronoun kanya. Okay, next we can also use this question here, basu hisiyu ini. Basu hisiyu ini. So basu is mag, he is the identifier, person identifier in siyu. It's the shortcut for hisiyu or just hisiyu. It means who, and ini the locator this. So if people translate this word for word, it would mean the mug of whom is this, which is a weird way to say it, but it simply also means whose mug is this, who owned this mug. Baso hisiyu ini. Baso hisiyu ini. So in this question, this kind of way of asking, we can reply in three ways as well. Here they are. First, you can say inyan basuhi Ahmad. Inyan basuhi Ahmad. Inyan basusin mastal. Inyan basu niya. So observe here that in the first example, we used a relator, he. This is now a dependent relator and followed by a proper name, and we have the relator sin followed by a common name, and lastly we used an oblique pronoun niya. So let's look at examples again. Inyan basuhi Ahmad, that is Ahmad's mug. Inyan basuhi Ahmad. And we can divide it here, we can transpose this here at the end. We can also say basuhi Ahmad inyan, that one is the mug of Ahmad. Or you can say inyan basusin mastal. Inyan basusin mastal. Basusin mastal inyan. Or you can say inyan basunya. Inyan basunya. Or basunya inyan. We simply transpose this here to the front and the remaining two back. Basunya inyan, inyan basunya. Okay, so just like our examples in the previous lesson, you can see here the difference in these answers. First, inyan basuhi Ahmad, we used the possessive relator he followed by a proper name or proper noun, which is Ahmad. Then here, inyan baso sin mastal, we used a possessive relator sin and a common noun mastal. And lastly, we used an oblique pronoun niya, inyan basu niya, which is again a third person singular, which means his or her. So in this first, we will discuss the first two examples. Okay, the dependent possessive relators he and sin. Now, dependent possessive relators are relators that requires an object and the owner of the object. It requires an object written before the relator, he or sin, and followed by the owner of the object. So the owner is written after the relator he or sin, and the object own is written before. So the object own here and the owner at the end, and in between are the relators. Now, how do they differ? The relators he and sin. The relator he is used with proper names. An example we have here, basuhi Ahmad, Ahmad's mug. By Omar. By means house. Omar's house. And we have sasakatan ni Fatima's car. Observe here that the relator, possessive relator he, must have an object attached to it, that is the object owned. There. Okay. And the plural form of he is hinda. Now the pattern here, the object owned is mentioned first, then followed by the relator he, and then the name of the person or the owner. So inyan basuhi Ahmad, that is the mug of Ahmad, or that is Ahmad's mug, they mean the same thing. And lastly, or basuhi Ahmad in yan. Look, although we transpose this set of words, we cannot remove the word basu before the relator he, because these are dependent possessive relators. They must have an object and the owner attached to it. Basuhi Ahmadin yan. They cannot exist without these two. That's why they're called dependent, compared to the independent possessive relator kan, which can stand alone with this, with simply this, can stand alone with this kan Ahmad, that's Ahmad's. Oh yeah, we already discussed this actually in our lesson 2, and the uses of he and hinda. Then the plural form, inbay, inyan, bay, hinda Omar. Inyan, bay, hinda Omar, that is the house of Omar and his family. Again, we did not mention his companions, which is his family, because it is already assumed that we are talking about plural, more than one subjects. And you can also say bay, hinda Omar, inyan. Bay, hinda Omar, inyan, that is Omar's house. Then we have the possessive relator sin, which is used with common names. Examples are baso sin mastal, baso sin mastal, bay sin mayul, bay sin mayul, and sasakatan sin doktor, sasakatan sin doktor. So you can see all the names here are common names. Now the plural form of sin is sin mga, sin mga. Again, the pattern, we must mention the object first, then followed by the relator sin, and then followed by the owner of the object. Okay, example, we have inyan baso sin mastal, inyan baso sin mastal, that is the mug of the teacher. So this is the object baso, and the owner is the word mastal, and because mastal is a common name, we use the relator sin and not the relator he. Okay, and we can also say baso sin mastal in yan. And we have the plural form, inyan bay sin mga kamayulan, inyan bay sin mga kamayulan, that is the house of the mayors, or bay sin mga kamayulan inyan. This is the plural form of the word mayul, which means mayor. We will discuss about this later on, how to create plural forms of nouns. Inyan bay sin kamayulan. Okay, now how do we differ dependent versus independent possessive relators? So remember, dependent possessive relators, he and sin requires an object. We must mention the object owned before it. While independent possessive relators do not require any object. While independent possessive relators does not require any object before it. An example, we have kan Ahmad and ha mastal. So here is a table for this dependent relators, he and sin. We have, for proper names, we use he, bay, Ahmad. And dependent relators, we use kan Ahmad. But for common names, we use the dependent relator sin, bay sin mastal, and ha mastal for the independent relator. And their counterpart as pronouns, we have the oblique pronouns and the genitive pronouns. We have bay niya, his house, and kaniya, his, kaniya. Okay, so that is all for the possessive relators. Now let's discuss the remaining answer, which is the oblique pronouns. Third person singular niya, simplified here by represented here by the pronoun niya, which is an oblique pronoun. Okay, oblique pronouns. Again, here's our handy dandy table. We have discussed the nominative form of the pronouns and the genitive form of the pronouns, and the remaining ones is the oblique form. So oblique pronouns are dependent pronouns. So these are the remaining set of pronouns that is dependent. The other two are independent pronouns. They can exist on their own, but oblique pronouns are dependent. They cannot exist on their own. They must always have a word. It's either an object or a verb that they can attach to. That's why they're called, that is why they are called dependent pronouns. So here are our oblique pronouns. Again, there are 8 oblique pronouns. Let us try to memorize them. First, the singular forms, we have ku, mu, nia. The dual form, we have ta. The plural forms, we have natu, namu, niyo, and nila. Kumu, nia, ta, natu, namu, niyo, and nila. And here are the equivalent in Tagalog. Ku, ko, and my. Mo, the second person singular mo in Tagalog is mo. In English is your. The third person singular oblique form niya. In Tagalog is niya, and in English is his or her. Dual form ta. There are no dual forms in the Tagalog and English form. The plural forms, we have natu in the first exclusion, and nothing in Tagalog, and in English our. In second exclusion, we have namu in the Tagalog, namin, in the English language our. The third exclusion, niyo in the Tagalog, its equivalent in Tagalog is ninyo, in English is your, plural form. And third person only, the fourth exclusion, nila, the plural form. Third exclusion, plural form, nila. The equivalent in Tagalog is again the same, nila, and the English equivalent is there. Okay, let's study some examples. So there are 2 uses of oblique pronouns. First, as possessive determiner, which identifies the owner of an object and also signifies relationship of one person to another. The pattern here is simple. We just follow this pattern. When an object is followed by an oblique pronoun, it means it is now it applies the possessive determiner form or use of the oblique pronoun. An example here, baiku. Bai means house, and followed by the oblique pronoun ku, which is a first person singular, which means my. So baiku means my house. And the second use is as an actor of an object focus verb. So if the oblique pronoun is now following a verb, specifically an object focus verb, actually more on of a non-actor focus verb, because there are other verbs which is not an object focus verb but also not an actor focus verb anyway, but we will only discuss here an object focus verb. An example here, we have kitaku means I saw. Okay, let's discuss first the first use, which is as a possessive determiner. So it identifies the owner of an object. So similar with the genitive pronouns, which tells you that it is the possession, the ownership of an object. But in here, it also identifies the relationship of one person to another. So the oblique pronoun follows an object or a person. We already discussed this pattern. Here's an example. Let's study. Iniin baso niya. This is his mug. Iniin baso niya. Baso niya in ini. So ini is the locator this. In is a topic identifier the. Baso is the object followed by an oblique pronoun niya. And niya is third person singular, which means his or her. Therefore, the item mentioned here is owned by the oblique pronoun niya, which is his. So it means this is his mug, the owner of the object baso. So we can also say baso niya in ini. Let me just cut it here. Baso niya in ini, or in ini iniin baso niya. More examples we have for the singular forms. Iniin basuku. Iniin basuku. This is my mug. Yan in sapi mo. Yan in sapi mo. Yadtu in bahay niya. Yadtu in bahay niya. And for dual form, yan in baita. Yan in baita. Plural forms we have iniin lupa natu. Iniin lupa natu. So this is the first exclusion, meaning every one of us is included. This is our land. Yan in sasakatan namo. Yan in sasakatan namo. That is our vehicle or car. Yan in kuting niyo. That is your cat. And ini in sumping nila. Underline are the objects. And written in red are the owners of the object. Look at this. These pronouns are always, they will always follow an object. Because they are dependent pronouns. Okay. So it also signifies relationship with another person. It follows the same pattern. Here we have siya in bagay ko. Bagay means friend. He is my friend. Hi ama mo, your father. Hi ina niya, her mother or his mother. Tay manghud ta. Tay manghud means sibling. Tay manghud ta, our sibling. Maas na to. Maas means parent. Maas na to, our parent. Mastal na mo, our teacher. Inaon niyo. Inaon means aunt. Inaon niyo. And amaon nila, their uncle. Amaon nila. Okay, so another use of oblique pronouns is as the non-focus actor of an object-focused verb. A non-focus actor of the an object-focused verb. So how is this? You can see this pattern, an object-focused verb and followed by an oblique pronoun. Remember, in our previous lessons, we introduced to you an example of an object-focused verb are the e-verbs. What are e-verbs? These are verbs with an IY infix in between the verb. So we have here an example, kita ko. It has the infix IY, kita, which means see, so. This is in the past tense as well. So kita means so and ko is I. And because it follows a verb, it is now the actor of this verb. Okay, I saw. So example, kita, let's study this example. Kita ko siya. Kita ko siya. I saw him. Or siya in kita ko. It was him that I saw. We observe that we use two pronouns here. First is the ko, which is an oblique pronoun. It is a singular first person, which means me, my. Then we have siya. Siya is a nominative pronoun. It is singular, third person, which means he or she. Remember, our pronouns do not have gender, so it can mean he or she. And we have an e-verb, kita. An e-verb is an object-focused verb. So, okay. Now let's dissect. So, kita means so. It is an e-verb, which is an object-focused verb. Therefore, what does it mean? Its focus is the receiver. Its focus is the object or the receiver. Receiver of the action or the verb. Then we have the pronoun ko, which is an oblique pronoun. It's a first person singular, which means my. It is because it is an oblique pronoun following an object focused verb, it is now the non-focus actor of the verb kita. Because we have another here, which is siya, a nominative pronoun. Remember, nominative pronouns will always be the focus of the verb. Siya is a third person singular, he or she, and because it is the focus of the verb kita, therefore it is the receiver of the action. So ko, I or my, is now the actor of the verb kita, and the receiver of the verb is siya. Okay, that's why the translation here is I saw him or her. Okay, kita ko siya. You can also say siya in kita ko. Okay, we mix this up. We first mentioned the nominative pronoun siya. Again, it is a nominative pronoun, and because it is still the nominative pronoun, it is still the focus of the verb. And we have here a verb which is an e-verb, an object focus, so its focus is the verb siya. Therefore, siya is the receiver. It is also the object, the receiver of the verb kita. So, and who saw him or saw her is the actor ko. Ko means me or my. But this time it is more translated as me or I. So siya in kita ko, it was him that I saw. Okay. More examples we have kita ko siya. Look, the pattern here is an object focused verb followed by an oblique pronoun. Object focused verbs are underlined. We use the same verb here, and we have the followed by the oblique pronoun, and then the focus, which is the object or the receiver. Kita ko siya, I saw him. Kita ko siya. Kita mo siya. Kita mo siya, you saw him. Kita niya ako, he saw me. Now this time the actor is niya, which is he or she, and ako is the receiver of the verb. Kita niya ako, because this is a nominative pronoun. Kita niya ako. And we have dual kita ta siya. Kita ta siya. Ta is a dual form that means both of us, me and you, saw him. Okay, kita ta siya. In the plural form, kita nato siya. We all saw him. Kita namo siya. We saw him. Kita niyo siya. You saw him in the plural form. And kita nila ako. They saw me. Kita nila ako. They saw me. Okay. So remember, if an oblique pronoun follows a non-actor focused verb like an object focused verb, it becomes the actor of the verb. Okay? The oblique pronoun will always be the actor. Other non-actor focused verbs aside from the e verbs, we have the he verbs or hika verbs. He verbs are signified by the prefix he. Example here, hiwaita ko. I will tell. This is in the future tense. But we will discuss this later on in our next lessons about verbs. Okay? So it is not just object focused verbs. There are also other verbs that follows this pattern. So long as it is not an actor focused verb like kimita. So oblique pronouns will never exist after an actor focused verb like an im verb. Now let's have an example. Remember, we use the verb kita. So let's have the verb here. The verb kita. Kita means to see. See. Now the e verb form of kita is kita. I saw. So if you place the oblique pronoun after it, kita ko, it means I saw. Now the oblique pronoun ko now is the act of the verb kita. Then we have the verb kimita. Kimita is the im form of the verb kita. Remember, you just add the infix im, kimita. Now you will never find an oblique pronoun following the verb, an actor focused verb like kimita. Kimita ko, no, you can never say that. But instead, because this is an actor focused verb, the actor must always be a nominative pronoun. Remember, nominative pronouns are the focus of the verbs. Therefore, it should be kimita ako. I watch or I saw. Kimita ako. Okay? So, kita ko, I saw. And kimita ako, I watch or I looked. I saw, I watch, I looked. Okay? So, oblique pronouns will never follow an actor focused verb like an im verb. It will always follow either an object focused verb like kita or other focused verbs like here, hiwaita. Okay? So, I think we will discuss this later on in details with the verbs. So that is all for our lesson, a fourth lesson. Yay! Congratulations! We now finished the part 2 of lesson 4. Magsukul, thank you again for joining us today. I hope you learned a lot and you enjoyed learning Sinūg. Join us in our WhatsApp group. If you have any questions, you can visit this link or fill up the feedback forms. Please subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't subscribed yet. Please like our Facebook page if you haven't liked it yet. Visit our page of Tausug 101, Learn Sinūg in anything Tausug. With that, magsukol. Thank you and wassalam. Until our next lessons. Bye.